all right,
Yeah.
that just happened kind of. There wasn't truly like a sense of anything to take away from the walk by.
Yeah. Do you know what happened to Fee and Kelsey Plum?
Just that they had travel issues, and I know they got on that plane, and so from there, I haven't been told exactly what the issue was as far as what led to them not making the plane, but I
Yeah.
know that they were traveling from.
That walk by you just saw, that wasn't just players leaving a meeting. That was the moment everyone realized the WNBA might not have a season in 2025. No smiles, no comments, just silence and indifferent faces after what was supposed to be a breakthrough negotiation. Annie Costabile from Front Office Sports staked out that meeting in New York, and what she witnessed should terrify every WNBA fan. Because with over 100 players in free agency, 2 expansion teams waiting in the wings, and opening day supposedly 3 months away, the league just showed up to their most important CBA meeting without a proposal. Let me say that again. They showed up with nothing.
And so their argument for that was like, well, the W couldn't have competed with the NBA and the NFL and all these media windows back then. And it's like, okay, well, or you could have built it on. You could have tried and had that foundation, and where would it be now? We don't know. And so I think it's just, yeah, it's again, I keep saying it, it's very layered.
Yeah. And I'm with you too, because I've always said, like, from the beginning, I was like, if you want the WNBA.
Here's what makes this crisis so unprecedented. The WNBA was founded in 1997 as a summer league designed to fill empty NBA arenas when the men weren't playing. It was a business decision wrapped in a feel-good story. David Stern saw an opportunity, and NBA owners got to monetize their facilities year-round while looking progressive. But that foundation, that original sin of being built as an afterthought, is exactly why we're watching this entire operation potentially collapse right now. The league structure was never designed for what's happening today. They set up this convoluted 3-bucket ownership system when the NBA sold off that 16% stake. The revenue waterfall got so complicated that even veteran journalists covering this league can't get straight answers about the financials. Adam Silver and Cathy Engelbert show up twice a year at press conferences, and when reporters ask about money, they deflect like politicians. The transparency just isn't there. And now, for the first time in WNBA history, the players have real leverage, and nobody knows how to handle it.
The season is coming up, and they're going to be impacted if it's delayed. And so there's strategy behind all of this. And negotiations, I mean, I was part of a union in Chicago. Like, you have to, both sides are seeking what's best for them. That's the reality. Like, and a coach said this to me once about a trade. He's like, the best trades are ones where both teams win, although that's rarely the case.
Yeah.
And it's similar with these negotiations. It's like both sides say, can say.
Think about what Annie just described. Players at completely different career stages, all trying to negotiate one deal that works for everyone. You've got veterans like Natasha Cloud, who are running out of time to cash in on their prime years. Then you've got rookies who won't hit unrestricted free agency until they're pushing 30 years old under the current system. That's not how it works in any other major professional league. In the NBA, players have autonomy over their careers by their mid-20s. In the WNBA, you play 3 years on a rookie-scale contract, then the team has an option on year 4. Then 2 more years of restricted free agency where your team can match any offer. By the time you're actually free, you're 29 or 30, and half your earning window is gone. The union wants to change that. They want to eliminate the core designation that keeps players locked to teams. They want younger players to have control earlier. But here's the problem. The league isn't ready to give that up.
Basketball is, what are we doing? What's the long-term goal for these players? Is it really to have their brands diluted by playing in all these leagues all over the world? Like, let's be for real. Because sure, you're earning money. You're earning these extra salaries. And if I'm in that position, again, it's like freelancing. Your work, you deserve to be paid for your work. But when you compare it to the NBA, like Luka's not playing in multiple leagues, LeBron's not playing in multiple leagues. And as a result, it not only allows their brand to take hold in a way that is so definable, it allows the NBA's brand to grow. And so the W, again, some could argue.
Now we get to the elephant in the room that nobody wants to address, honestly. Unrivaled. Breanna Stewart couldn't make it to that meeting in person because she was playing in Unrivaled. Nneka Ogwumike and Kelsey Plum literally posted videos of themselves racing to catch a flight from Miami, and they still didn't make it because of travel issues. Think about that. The three most vocal leaders of the CBA negotiation, the faces of the players' union push, and two of them couldn't physically be in the room for the most important meeting of their careers. This is the conflict of interest everyone's been dancing around. These same players who are demanding transformational change from the WNBA are simultaneously building and playing in a competing league during the offseason. And yes, the WNBA allowed this to happen. They founded the league with a promise that players could earn money elsewhere because the W couldn't pay them enough. But that decision is now coming back to haunt them in ways nobody predicted.
This is the schedule. Like this, we're gonna extend the season maybe to 50 games, maybe you slowly doing it, but at the same time also expand the freaking rosters, because I'm really tired of these hardship after hardship contract players. They don't have a developmental league. They have these girls like flying in from overseas or coming in from whatever secondary job they're doing to play. And it's like, there are so many things that need cleaned up, and it's not going to be something that happens overnight. And it probably won't happen in this CBA. But it is frustrating for myself coming from covering the men's league. My husband played in the NBA for many, many years, so I see the back end there. He's also played in EuroLeague. I see what they do, men's EuroLeague. I see how it's run there. It's just like, it's time for them to get on board, especially with having these young players coming in that are demanding so much attention and eyeballs like that we've never seen.
Annie makes a critical point here that gets lost in all the discourse about player empowerment. If you want the WNBA to be taken seriously as the premier women's basketball league in the world, if you want max salaries sighting toward $10 million, if you want the infrastructure and investment that comes with being an elite professional sports league, then at some point you have to demand exclusivity. You have to say, this is the league, and if you want to play here, you play here only. LeBron James doesn't play in multiple leagues. Luka Doncic doesn't split his time between the NBA and EuroLeague anymore. Why? Because the NBA pays enough that players don't have to, and because the league protects its brand by being the only show that matters. The WNBA has never had that. They've never been able to demand exclusivity because they've never paid enough to justify it. But we're reaching an inflection point. The money is starting to come in. Viewership exploded in Caitlin Clark's rookie season brought 20 million people to watch a championship game. The foundation is finally there to build something sustainable. But you can't build that foundation if your star players are diluting their brands across 4 different leagues and getting injured playing overseas in February.
That now is another reason why the question of sustainability, I don't have that same question, because I've seen for myself the shift in the way people talk about women's sports, want to be involved in women's sports, see the value in careers in these spaces. And I think that's also why so many people got so sensitive about the discourse around Caitlin Clark when she came into the league, because again, to our point, we maybe didn't see a future in the WNBA, and I'll say you, because like I didn't even play in college. Like again, I was not like a hooper like that. But there.
Let's talk about what actually happened in 2024, because this is where the league completely failed to prepare for its own success. Caitlin Clark's final college game against South Carolina drew over 20 million viewers. 20 million people watched women's college basketball. The trajectory was obvious to anyone paying attention. This wasn't a surprise. This wasn't some unpredictable phenomenon. The Iowa Games had been building massive audiences for 2 years. Everyone knew she was coming to the WNBA. Everyone knew she was bringing an audience with her. And yet, when she arrived, the league wasn't ready. Not even close. The business infrastructure wasn't prepared for that level of attention. The officiating wasn't consistent enough, for that many eyeballs. The discourse around her became so toxic because the league had spent decades operating in obscurity. And suddenly millions of casual fans were watching and critiquing everything. The people running the WNBA, the executives making decisions, didn't have the foresight to prepare for the biggest star in the sport's history. And Annie's sources have told her directly, a lot of those executives simply weren't qualified to be in those positions in the first place.
The fever and the spotlight is on Caitlin, like when Caitlin's rookie season, when Kennedy Carter checked her when the ball wasn't even in play, and that wasn't upgraded. There was nothing there because the ball wasn't in play. And you're like, what's going on?
It's not a matter of personal opinion or like villainizing of Kennedy. Like, I think the Chicago Tribune editorial board after that like wrote a really egregious op-ed. And again, this I'm so glad we're talking about all this, but this is what makes daily beat writing so hard, or covering the league just from a critical space so hard, because at that time, that was a simple evaluation. The ball was not in play. Kennedy lowers her shoulder. She checks Caitlin to the ground. And it's like, should have been simple, call the foul. It should have been upgraded. And obviously it's upgraded in hindsight. But that
This is where the conversation gets really uncomfortable. But it's necessary. Annie's right that officiating has been a problem for decades. Go back and watch Candace Parker's rookie year. Watch the hits she took. Watch Cheryl Reeves' legendary meltdown over officiating in the playoffs. This isn't new. But what is new is the scrutiny. What is new is millions of fans watching Caitlin Clark get body-checked by Kennedy Carter when the ball wasn't even in play, and the refs not upgrading it to a flagrant. Watching Dejanai Carrington eye-poke her with no call. Watching Marina Mabre shove her to the floor in a playoff game and only getting a common foul. The league keeps saying they're addressing it. They formed an officiating committee. They had competition meetings where this was supposedly a priority. But here's what Annie discovered. Teams still haven't been told the rules for the 2025 expansion draft. They don't know if they're protecting 4 players or 5. They don't know if the core designation is staying or going. They can't plan for free agency because they don't know what their cap situation will be. And there are over 100 free agents waiting to sign contracts. This isn't just about officiating. This is about a league that still operates like it's too.
her emphasis and also her communication style has, through her career has always been very fiery, has very strong opinions, et cetera, et cetera. And so I think when you consider the future of the league, there's a desire to, again, they haven't been shy about this, seek a transformational deal that changes everything right now. And I think, again, this is now just my opinion. When you consider being in a younger place in your career, you naturally, again, this is totally my opinion, and I'm thinking exactly about a period early in my journalistic career. Your thought is, oh, well, I have time to get more done down the road. Maybe in this moment, you're more willing to take a sacrifice. And those are the conversations that have to continue to go on. Does that mean that there's not?
So here's where we are. It's January 2025. The WNBA season is supposed to start in May. The league just released the schedule, acting like everything's fine, like we're full steam ahead. But behind the scenes, it's chaos. The CBA negotiations are stalled. The union voted overwhelmingly to authorize a strike. Nneka Ogwumike, Brianna Stewart, and Kelsey Plum are the faces of this fight, and 2 of them couldn't even make it to the most important meeting because they were playing in another league. Free agency should have started 2 weeks ago. In a normal year, by mid-January, teams are announcing signings left and right. The whole thing wraps up in 2 weeks because there's never been this much movement. But this isn't a normal year. There are more free agents than ever before. There's more money on the table than ever before. Players like Arike Ogunbowale aren't gonna just sign the first offer they get when they know another team might offer $200,000 more. This is gonna take time. Real time. The kind of time the league doesn't have if they want to start on schedule. And then there's the expansion draft. Portland and Toronto are joining the league. They need to build rosters, but the league hasn't told them the rules yet. They haven't told the existing 12 teams how many players they can protect. If the core designation gets eliminated in the new CBA, that completely changes how the expansion draft works. Everything is connected. Everything is waiting on this one negotiation, and the league showed up to that meeting without a proposal. Annie's sources are telling her the season is going to be delayed. Not might be delayed, will be delayed. If this doesn't get resolved by early February, there's no way they make opening day. And here's the scariest part. Some players are starting to panic. Not the vocal ones on social media. The other ones. The ones who are quietly telling their agents they need this season to happen because they can't afford to miss a paycheck. The ones who don't have unrivaled contracts or overseas money. The ones who are just trying to make a living playing basketball. The union says they're unified. The strike authorization vote was overwhelming. But unity doesn't mean everyone agrees on tactics. It doesn't mean everyone has the same timeline. Veterans who are on their last contract are thinking differently than rookies who have a decade ahead of them. Players who are financially secure are thinking differently than players living paycheck to paycheck. That's not fracturing. That's reality. That's what happens when you have 144 players all trying to negotiate one deal. And through all of this, the league keeps playing games. They release the schedule to create pressure. They show up to meetings without proposals to stall for time. They're betting that players will crack first, because the season is coming, and free agency needs to happen, and expansion teams need rosters. It's a negotiation tactic. It's strategy, but it's also incredibly risky, because if you push too hard, if you miscalculate how much leverage the other side actually has, the whole thing can collapse. Annie mentioned she was part of a union herself. She knows how this works. Both sides say they want what's best for the league, but both sides are really fighting for what's best for them. The best negotiations end with both sides feeling like they won something, but someone always comes out ahead. And right now, it's not clear who that's going to be. What we do know is this. The WNBA is at a crossroads. They can either seize this moment, capitalize on the momentum from 2024, pay the players what they're actually worth, and build something sustainable for the next decade. Or they can fumble this opportunity by being cheap, by stalling, by treating the players like they should just be grateful to have jobs. And if they choose the second option, if they let this season get delayed or canceled, they might never get this chance again. The casual fans who showed up for Caitlin Clark, they're not gonna wait around. The brands that started investing in women's basketball, they'll pull that money if there's no product to sponsor. The momentum everyone worked so hard to build will evaporate. And 5 years from now, we'll look back at January 2025 as the moment the WNBA had everything in front of them and chose to blow it. So where does this go from here? The players need to stay unified, but they also need to be realistic about what's achievable in this CBA versus the next one. The league needs to stop playing games and come to the table with an actual proposal that reflects the current value of the product. And both sides need to remember that the biggest loser in all of this isn't the players or the owners. It's the fans. It's the young girls who finally have role models who look like them playing basketball at the highest level. It's the sponsors who took a chance on women's sports. It's everyone who's been fighting for decades to make this league matter. The question isn't whether the WNBA can survive this. It's whether the WNBA deserves to survive this, if they can't figure out how to pay their players fairly after 28 years of existence. And honestly, I'm not sure they do. Because at some point, good intentions aren't enough. At some point, you have to actually deliver. And right now, with no CBA, no expansion draft rules, no free agency, and no proposal on the table, the WNBA isn't delivering anything except chaos. Let me know in the comments. Do you think the season starts on time? Do you think the players should hold firm or take what they can get now? And if you were running this league, what would you do differently? Because something's gotta give, and it better give soon, or we're all gonna be watching Unrivaled in May instead of the WNBA. Hit subscribe if you want more coverage of this absolute mess as it unfolds. This story is far from over.